Are we ready, Bill? Good, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled City Council meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, and the time is 5:30 p.m. Thank you for everyone who is in the audience today and those who are listening at home. We have a full agenda today to move forward, so we'll get started. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Motley.
Here.
Friedlieb.
Here.
Paulson.
Present.
Beyondich.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Aaroncelli. Here. Cuffey.
Present. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We're to item 4 on the agenda, which is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience that would like to address the council this evening. This is a time to do so. If is anyone in the audience that wish to address the council at this time. Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, which is the consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion unless a councilor or citizen of the City of Virginia requests that the item be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval and corrections of the regular meeting that was held on what day? May 14th, 2024. Thank you. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution number 24-010, the schedule of bills. Item 5.3 is approve pay estimate number 1 to Casper Construction for the 2023 Street and Infrastructure 10th Avenue West and 13th Street South project in the amount of $67,972.59. Item 5.4 is approve the following travel requests for the police department. Item 5.4A, Jennifer Kinney to attend the 2024 Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the BCA Criminal Justice Users Conference, October 1st and 2nd, 2024 in St. Cloud, Minnesota, at a cost of $790.24. Item 5.4B, Nick Grivna, our canine handler from the police department, to attend the United States Police Canine Association Canine Trials, June 2nd through 4th, 2024. This year is being held in Hudson, Wisconsin, at a cost of $1,274. Item 5.4C, Officer Hunter Levander and Officer Max Olson to attend the Street Smart Cop Tactics, September 29th through 30th, 2024 in Ellsworth, Wisconsin, at a cost of $1,201.75. Item 5.5 is approve the following transient merchant licenses. Item 5.5A, Berry Lane, doing business as Street Tacos and Eats. Item 5.5B, John Masari, doing business as Generous Jerry's Fireworks Incorporated. And item 5.5C, Randy Domagala, doing business as Domo's Donuts. These are the consent agenda items before the council today. Looking for council action.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the consent agenda. Is there support? By Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, appearances. We under 6.1, we have one appearance scheduled this evening. Jody Grebanowski, our library director, to discuss the 2023 annual library report. Welcome, Jody.
Good evening, everyone. So you get to hear me in the middle of a meeting instead of at the end. What I'm giving you tonight is just a quick overview of our stats from 2023. I did a fuller version of this last week at the Friends annual meeting. And then I do have a shortened version, so because I'm going to give you a lot of numbers. All right, 2023. We did a lot of projects. The shelving project in the children's room, which I'll show you some pictures of. We finished our carpet project. And then we wrote a grant for a new circulation desk. Some of our annual events, winter reading, summer reading, programs for all. We did a lot of programming this year. And then working with the Arrowhead Library System, we had a lot of take and makes or take and create, and then legacy programs. So I'll give you some numbers. So visits to the library in 2023, 43,631, a little down from 22, but we were also close a little bit more for hours. Our website visits, we hit almost 30,000, which is pretty phenomenal. I give credit to the fact that we have a website that actually works on a mobile platform now and is compliant for ADA. Reference questions. People had a lot of questions last year, 3,413, give or take. These are estimates, so, oops, sorry. Interlibrary loan. So this is, we send stuff out, people send stuff to us. These are the, almost 17,000+ things that we handled for our patrons for both directions. So that's pretty cool that we are able to do that. Computer sessions, 5,767, which equated to almost 3,000 hours of computer use. And this is for a lot of our patrons who don't have internet access. Taxes, filling out job forms, email, of course, and things, just pretty much anything you can think of. Medical forms for the state of Minnesota, and you can only attach JPEGs and not PDFs, so that's always a fun thing to figure out how to make all this tech come together. Events. So we have one event room. We had 148 library programs. We had 81 other programs in our library event room. Sam was busy this year, 313 media posts. This is one of the ways that we get out about our programming. If something changes, hours, that kind of stuff. We also do paper calendars. We put stuff in the newspaper. We put stuff on our electronic sign. And still people say, oh, I wish I would have known. So we try our best, but we still miss people. Circulation, 87,909, a little bit down from last year, but that's okay. It's not unusual in the state of libraries throughout the United States right now. Children's and adults, our adult circ went up a little bit, children's went down a little bit, kind of evened out from last year, from 2022, so not too bad. Libby, so these are our ebooks, e-magazines, and e-audio, still heavily used. This is something that's provided through the Arrowhead Library System, and they deal with all the publishers and everything that has to go with this, so for you as a user, it's a touch of a button. And I think we have the second or third largest collection in the state. And yes, that is compared to the metro area. Wireless sessions. We had 8,128 successful wireless attempts last year, and it was access 24/7. Our building is not open 24/7, but if you are in our parking lot or in the front of the library, you have access to the internet, which we know is really important for a lot of people. We've had people sit in their cars doing interviews, and we usually have a couple people who are there in the morning before we open. We have some fun things. We do check out, we wrote a grant and got the Minnesota State Park Pass, and it's good through 25. They're revamping the program, so we'll see if we have it after that. But then you can also check out some adventure kits to go with it. So we had 2 passes. They checked out 27 times. That is picking up again. In the winter, they don't check out that much. Can't imagine why. I have to share my story with you because this is a fun story. So one of our patrons gave this information to me early in, I think, February. It was before I had to go down to the cities for legislation day. But anyway, on our receipts, it tells you how much money you save. So like you checked out this today and saved X amount of money. Well, she saved it for the whole year. And so this is what she had 76 visits, and that was between Virginia Public Library and the Bookmobile, and she saved $5,233.91. And she told me I could tell her name, but she said, well, just tell them I'm a retired school librarian and now I have time to read. So that's what I did. But anyway, so she's doing it again this year, but she's collecting different stats for me, and she'll give it to me in 24 or 25. Our new desk, if you haven't seen it, much more welcoming, easier level for most people. We do have to get a little step stool, which we wrote a grant for, because our littles really want to see what's going on, and they are hanging on the counter. So, a few highlights. Programming. We doubled our programming in 23. We had almost 3,000 attendees for in-house, and for programs in the community, we had 32 and over 3,000. So we were in the community, they come to us, we go to them, so it works really well. Just some highlights. We had Kitchen Creators, our book club, Learn and Play's Child Safety Resource Fair. We did this with outreach through through various different people. You can see fire and police and United Way. The kids had a great time. I do believe we had almost 100 people at that event. National Library Week, which we celebrate every year. And then we've been fortunate to get this 321 Art Studio has written a grant through legacy funds, and this is, the first time was in 23, and then we did have it again in 24. Our patrons love it. They find it relaxing. They get to create some really awesome art. And then we do stuff with anime. Staff have a really good time. Everybody remember Barbie? They created a Barbie box. That is a treadmill box that they decorated. Definitely circled a lot of different things about Barbie and everything that goes with it. We did active play, which was really successful. A lot of our friends volunteered for that. And winter reading, find the Yeti. We still have kids that would like to find the Yeti, so we are creating a different scavenger hunt for summer reading this year, so they get to find animals instead. We did baby story time, family story time. We had a gardening series. We did stuff with kids after school for Game Zone and things. Summer reading last year was Find Your Voice. And that's just part of the programming that happened, but that I can share with you. So we did our kickoff on June 10th last year. This year we're doing it on Saturday, June 1st. So you can see where they come and get their free book. The friends buy books for this kickoff, and then once they finish the summer reading program, they get another book, so it's pretty awesome. Big Truck Day, always a hit. As you can tell, staff are having a really good time with the Zamboni. Fire truck was able to come. There were no emergencies that day, so that was awesome. Book club. These are the books they read this year. We've had as few as, I think our lowest one was during a snowstorm. We probably only had like 3 or 4 people, but we've had as many as 16. And they have a great time. You don't have to read the book. You can come listen, and maybe it's a book you're going to want to read. That's what usually people say. It's like, oh, I'm going to read that. Author visits. We had local authors. We had virtual authors. So the one good thing that came from COVID is people are more willing to do virtual events, and authors are willing to talk to us from, this particular author was from the East Coast. But Linda came in person. The rest of these all came in person. So they did an amazing job. And then Joy is one of the friends, and she was in Swaziland, and so she did a presentation on it. She went back to Swaziland. The friends really, and the staff, some of her books that we withdrew, we sent her books. We got amazing thank you letters from Swaziland last week. That was really cool. So international. We do crafts, escape room. If you want to do an escape room, we'll have it again this summer. It'll be in July. Indoor golf. We partnered with Greens on 14th. We had over 100 people came through, and they had a blast. So 24 so far, and it's already, because it's already almost June. We did winter reading. Our circ desk was installed. Painting club, summer reading prep, National Library Week. This week, on Wednesday, you can come do paper crafts. And if you want to come to the kickoff, you can see, I know there's going to be snakes. If you don't like snakes, don't go to the event room, but they'll bring some other fun animals. So this will be our kickoff. Everybody can come get a free book, get their summer reading booklet, and they'll be good to go for the summer, because it does start June 1st. We are Read, Renew, Repeat this summer. We have some really awesome graphics for this. And just a quick update. I just want to give a shout out to Stephanie. So she did a lot of work in getting the children's room more accessible for kids. She's done this presentation twice, once for Minnesota Library Association, which is a state association, and then she did it up at Power Up, which is a national conference in Wisconsin for youth services. And so I thought some of you might appreciate some of the pictures she found. So part of it was photos from 1954. She had to explain where we were, because when you get out of Minnesota, not everybody knows where Virginia is or the Arrowhead is. Imagine that. But in the 70s, I don't know if anybody remembers all the stacks in the main part of there. This was before carpet. And she did a lot of prep for this. And she's been working on this before I even came. So just a lot of different pictures about the space. This is with our new carpet. Again, a lot of this was done through grants and various different things through the foundation. We took advantage of Clear the Clutter. That was all the stuff that was in the kids' room that is now packed away elsewhere and useful. We had a lot of fun. By the way, when you dump Legos into big containers, they're really loud. And this is how we decided what we would get. So it was a lot of fun. And then the process. This was a shout out to Public Works. They helped move furniture, recreate some of our furniture as we were figuring out what kind of stuff would work for us. And then the end, so now we have all these really great spaces for people to be. We get a lot of play dates. People come in. Kids find their books. Through another donation, we have some educational computers. We set them up. They were within use within, I think, 10 minutes. So you'll figure they're popular. And it's never done. We're still finding out what works with our families. We have lower ones for our littles, and they get higher as their reading level gets better. But just kind of showing you what we're at. So we also have a teen space now. I'm going to flip through these so you can see the final product. Whoops. So this is where the teens can hang out now, so they're no longer behind the desk. So that is a really quick overview of what we did in 2023. I just wanted to share that all with you. I do have a one-pager of library stats because I gave you a lot of numbers. So but if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jody. Questions from the council? Okay. I guess we have no questions, Jody. Thank you very much. It was
You're welcome.
very condensed and
Yeah, you got the short version.
very, very powerful presentation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item number 7, unfinished business. Item 7.1, the clinic lease. Do you have any information to share with us with respect to that, either Britt or our attorney, Brian Lindsay? Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. We have continued to meet. We've exchanged some additional information, and we understand that the next step is a proposal coming from Essentia.
Very good, thank you. Questions from the council with respect to this item on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to item 7.2. It is the property located at 410 5th Street South. This has been an ongoing investigation and monitoring of the property and looking for any updates we may have with respect to the progress of the improvement of this property and the progress on the permit. So, Jenny, do you have any information with respect to the property at 410 5th Street South? Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor. No, we don't have any information at this time. We're waiting for a call to do an inspection. So that's where we stand at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Brian?
Mayor, I've got nothing to add to that.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments from the audience with respect to that? Please come forward, Mr. Kingsley, and formally, please state your name for the record and welcome to the council meeting.
Hi, thank you, Bruce Kingsley. So we were very encouraged. There was a back entry deck added to the property, which improved it some. And they have been mowing the lawn, but as of probably a month ago, there's been absolutely nothing done. The construction crews pulled everything out, and it looks like everything is stopped there. It's nowhere near inhabitable at this point. So again, I'm curious as to what the next steps are. I think I asked last time I was here, what happens when the 6-month permit runs out, and what if it's not completed? Where do we go from there? You didn't have any answers at that time. I don't know what your time frames are for inspections, because I was promised that list at least twice, and no one's ever sent me information about the time frames or deadlines on that property. So I guess I'm just looking for a little guidance as to what your plan is going forward and what the deadlines are that need to be met.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kingsley. Jenny, Britt, is there a way that we can get a hold of the planning and permitting department up there? I know that we have some staff there, issues there, but to provide Mr. Kingsley with the information he's requesting. Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor. We can provide council that information. It's not typical practice that we provide that to adjoining property owners, but we can certainly provide council when we get those updates too.
Would you do that? And then once you provide it to the council for updates, we can certainly forward that information to Mr. Kingsley. So do we have an answer with respect to the time frame regarding inspections? I know that we've been periodically looking at the property. I know I go by there on a number of occasions. I'm sure maybe some of the other councilors do, and I did see them doing some work on there, which was encouraging in the beginning, but as Mr. Kingsley had just pointed out, there hasn't been any work done in that property for over a month. So do we have like a timeline moving forward after 6 months if the permit is not? Does it expire after 6 months, and upon that, if they haven't done the work with respect to the permit, then the city council has some action steps that we can take?
I believe so. That may be a better question for our legal counsel.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that the 6 months was built in as a condition of the permit. And so once that 6 months lapses, that permit is no longer effective. They'd have to apply for another permit, if I remember the terms correctly. And then also, it was my understanding, and I believe the understanding that was fairly clearly conveyed to the property owner, that after that 6 month period, if we didn't have a successful inspection, we would be looking to cite again and then again accumulate those fines.
And those fines, if I forget the statutory language or the ordinance language, but are those fines cumulative?
That's correct, Mayor. So those types of violations, or that sort of violation, is what we call a continuing violation. So each additional day that the violation exists is another infraction, technically.
Thank you. Mr. Kingsley?
So at some point in time, that's going to become monetary detriment, because as of right now, if he just keeps buying permits and incurring a fine once every 6 months, it's cheaper not to fix the place.
Well, I guess you could look at it that way. Yeah.
That's what's going on right
Yeah,
now.
but, the law gives us this, time frame, and if he follow the ordinance, he doesn't follow the ordinance, it violates the permit, then we take the corrective action we can based upon the ordinance, which is another fine. And then he has to then reapply for a permit to bring it up to the standard that our inspectors think needs to be done in order to make it habitable.
Is there a point in time in which you stop giving him permits because he's failed to complete any of the work on the current ones?
Well, Mr. Kingsley, I do not know the answer to that. So a question that I would have for someone on staff, or we could get you the information as quickly as we can, and that is if the permit is applied for, and the information that's in that permit or the work that has to be done, if that work is completed, then the permit expires. But in this particular case, I think the outline for our inspector is to determine if, in fact, what the permit was signed out for was the work completed based upon the permit that was signed out. And if not, it's a violation of, there's another violation, or didn't meet the requirements of the first permit, and that when the fine kicks in. And so he would have to reapply for another permit. And so if, say for the sake of argument or discussion here today, that he does not apply for another permit and he hasn't applied, our inspector would make recommendations for the next steps. And I'm assuming that the next step, if the fines don't do any, some court action could be coming down the pike. Brian, could you please kind of, am I in the right direction here?
You are, Mayor. But the other piece of it is, because of the continuing nature of the violation, the gap between administrative fines isn't necessarily 6 months. One strategy that could be employed, and I don't want to get too far into strategy, but one strategy that could be employed is to say, okay, we gave you 6 months last time. If you're going to pull a permit, you get half that amount of time, you get cited again, then half that amount of time, or you could reduce it and say you get a month. That time fluctuates, and it's actually built as a condition of the permit.
And who determines that?
I believe it was the Planning and Zoning Committee at the last hearing.
And do they have a guideline to go by, or are we just throwing it out there?
There's no hard and fast rule about how those conditions could be set on the permits. It depends on the application and the individual facts and circumstances of the case.
So if I suggest that it goes up every week because of the length of time that this has gone on for, would that be taken into consideration?
Thank you, Mayor. It's certainly something that you could request of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah. And at some point in time when we issue a permit, do you issue a permit that it says at the end of 6 months this needs to be a legally habitable dwelling. Is that ever an option? No. So we can just let her sit vacant.
The scope of work,
Fantastic.
so permit is pulled and paid for based on the scope of work that's recommended and required by our planning and permitting department. So that scope of work is, so say there's a significant amount of work that can't be done in 2 weeks, they would get a reasonable amount of time in which to complete that work. So if it's, if you got to completely gut the kitchen, for example, because of mold, I'm not saying that's the case, but then how much time was reasonable for a contractor to be able to get that done in what time frame? So we'd have to figure out whatever that scope of work is and make sure that time frame is followed, so it's not being taken advantage of with respect to prolonging this to the point of eternity. So.
Yeah, I mean, we should be taking into account that this has been going on for years.
Yes. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Kingsley, for coming forward again. Can I just back up? What was the original information you were looking for?
Time frame on
From when you had asked,
deadlines as to when work is to be done. When was the permit pulled, I guess, to begin with? Because I'd like to know the 6-month deadline when that's up. And then, like I say, I was promised a couple times that I would be given a time frame as to
Yep.
what benchmarks he has to hit in order to
yep.
avoid
So
fines.
I think I'm trying to kind of piggyback off what your request was. I just didn't hear it all the way.
That's good.
So that should be public information. Should that not be public information?
The permit's public information, Mr. Lindsay.
It is public information. The question is if it's assembled. I mean, anything that happened, well, I shouldn't say anything. Most things that happen within the city are public information. It's just whether it exists in a tangible, producible form.
But telling Mr. Kingsley that we can't provide it to him, or we don't normally provide it to him when it is public information, shouldn't be what we tell taxpayers, should it be? I mean, we've been providing information all along as this has been continuing, so I'm not sure why the cutoff of information should be happening.
Mr. Lindsay?
So,
And sorry, it's just a request that I have, so if we get other requests like this, I want to know what
and
is the answer.
so, Counselor, I think to answer your question, I think what I heard from Ms. Bourbonnet's response was that her preference is to follow her normal course. I think what she was saying is she'll provide the information. Once it's created, it then becomes public. If there was a data request for it, it would be provided. But I think the procedure is that she, through her department, naturally reports to the city council or to the management team within the city.
Okay, so upon receiving that information, city staff will then provide that to Mr. Kingsley? Is that, like, okay, so that one hopefully is taken care of.
Thank you.
And the other question I had written down is, what was the date that the permit was issued?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you. I believe it was February 29th of 24.
So August would be 6 months. And then when you discuss continuing violation, does that mean it's a daily, weekly, or monthly continuing of a violation? So if a car is parked continuously on the wrong side of the road, they could get tickets every single day if the parking monitor or our officers went by and ticketed that vehicle. And then at some point, it triggers an abandoned vehicle where then that vehicle would be towed. So I need to understand, what is our policy on a continuing violation? Is it daily, weekly, or monthly? What is the definition of that?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor, so the answer to that question is a continuing violation is a violation on each separate day that it continues to exist. I think the larger question the larger answer to that question may be a policy decision for the city. It's how aggressively is the city going to seek enforcement of that? In the situation where you've got a car parked, and it stays in one spot, theoretically, it would be in violation every other day, because every day that it's on the wrong side of the street would constitute a violation.
Correct.
And using a car parking is a little bit of a tough analogy because there's very specific laws that are involved when you're looking to tow away a vehicle. But theoretically, the city could look and make sure, if we're in compliance with the laws of the state of Minnesota as it relates to these towing provisions, how long are we going to allow that continuing violation after that benchmark date has been met before we tow it away?
And I just went through this with our VPD regarding a vehicle situation on North Side, so that's kind of why I'm doing a comparison. Because it does trigger, there is the next step. That triggers the next step would be the towing, which you need to comply with all of the ordinances or statutes. So my question is, if we have a policy on a continuing violation, because I think this is maybe the second or third time that you stated continuing violation, and if we don't, we probably need to create a policy on that continuing violation regarding this type of situation. And then just to follow up with the last, portion, is that I had attended a planning and zoning meeting, and there was a property on 2nd, right off of 2nd and maybe 12th, 11th Street South. And at that time, the Planning and Zoning Commission, gave, it was Mr. Lindbergh's home. There was something wrong with the foundation, and they only gave him a 30-day extension. And so I'm not understanding why we give, this was like a foundational deal that he was actually working with Lency Construction on, and asked and came in and met with the planning and zoning and asked for an extension, and they said 30 days, that's it. You got 30 days. So we're going on 13 years, and I'm wondering why we have to keep revisiting this and we keep setting the clock back when reality is, if there are issues, they applied for the permit, it just keeps going in a loop, in a continuous loop, in a continuous loop. And so then I think when you were asking, what happens then if you can't get the inspection? Well, it's a non-homestead property that's supposed to be a rental property, so that would go into under our rental code ordinance, so it should get inspected regardless, one way or the other.
If he doesn't rent it, then we don't inspect it.
Okay, so there's no inspection if there's no rental. What if the back end of the property is being rented?
That has to be inspected then.
Okay, so
Not the front.
just the back end?
Whatever is being rented. If you're renting out your back half of your garage as an apartment, that would be inspected. If it's your upper floor, that would be inspected.
Okay,
Maybe.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
Are you
go
done?
ahead,
Okay, so last time we were here also, you had spoke about what had been, you called the outside completed, and one of the things that you had addressed was infestation of the property, and said that had been taken care of. I was outside with a neighbor 3 days ago, and we both videotaped squirrels going in and out of the attic freely, which is the same thing that's been happening also for years. And they had said that there's no signs of infestation, so my guess is that nobody's been up in the attic of that property. Still same thing that's been going on for years here.
And I think that's my continuing issue here, is that when we've had other properties that have come forward, they're treated in such and such of a manner. And this property seems to not, it seems to go in just circles. And I'm not understanding why. So if we need to create a continuing violation monetary fine policy, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, then I think we need to do that so that there is some alleviation regarding when you take out a permit, the expectation is you're going to do the work on the permit. And if you don't, then you're going to be cited for that.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you. So, I think we've got to be careful. We're talking about a couple of different concepts. So, one of the concepts that we're talking about is a continuing violation for the known issues that exist with the property. We're One issue that we're talking about is the rental code. One issue that exists is the vacant building registry, theoretically. And so all of these things interplay. We have to start from the concept that we can't force the property owner here to rent the property out. And if he's not going to rent it out, and if he's not going to have somebody living in it, then the fact of whether the internal space of the property is habitable or not habitable is really a moot point. Then we're stuck with, I shouldn't say stuck with, then the examination that we make is, does the exterior of the structure comply with the code that exists within the city? If it does, there's not much more that we can do with that other than making sure that it's on the vacant building registry. If it doesn't, then we have a violation and we can issue the administrative fines and start down that process. And if those things aren't remedied, then we can continue to cite. And that's where the continuing violation is. If we say, hey, you've got A, B, and C are the problems that are resulting in the administrative fines, because these are the three items, and I'm just picking numbers. These are the three items that violate the code in Virginia, and they pull a permit and correct those three items, then what the interior of that space looks like, or whether it's habitable or not, is beyond what we can look at, so long as they don't have somebody living in the structure and they've brought their exterior into compliance. Now, animal infestation is a much more tricky issue because it is a code violation to promote or to allow infestation of the property. The difficult thing, or the difficult aspect of an animal infestation is, for our staff or for the folks that are doing the investigations, we didn't have a city staff member or an inspector that was there to watch the squirrels come in and out. We are stuck with these isolated moments in time when we would go and look. And, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at private property rights within the state of Minnesota, the city can't just go into the structure and go upstairs and inspect unless we have probable cause and, in most cases, an administrative warrant if the property owner isn't agreeable to that. We can't go in unless we have permission or an administrative warrant to go and do that sort of inspection. So we're further kind of handcuffed because we're limited by the things that we can see from the exterior in those spotted moments or those isolated moments in time when we have the availability of staff members to go out and inspect it. So that's what makes that very difficult is, Mr. Kingsley, I understand that you're there all the time and you can see that all the time. We don't have that same ability. So we're kind of stuck with the information that we have. If you collect that information, I would say the best, the most helpful thing for the city to do as far as enforcement is to pass it along to Ms. Bourbonnais or to the city so that we have the same information and we can see it in real time. Because until you mentioned it here, I didn't know that there was a continuing issue with that because I'm not able to see it or we're not able to collect that information. And that's the difficult part about some of this compliance stuff is, as American citizens and in the state of Minnesota, the government is rightly supposed to work hard to protect our private property rights. And sometimes in cases like this, it makes the enforcement of these code issues a little bit more tricky and more difficult.
So your city engineer, Christina, saw it when she parked outside the house. She said that at one of the meetings. I think you may have seen it, Mayor Cuffey, at one point, the squirrels.
I have.
Yeah, I have video of it. So if I just keep sending you videos every week, is that going to build a case?
Yes.
Helpful.
Okay.
I just have one more thing to.
Yes, please, Councilor Paulson.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
We've been through this for so long, and I just really want to try to get some help here, or relief. So, Brian, when you talk about the administrative warrant, back when COVID was going on, and then everything was pushed back. I thought we already were going down that track. We were doing a dual track. One was the administrative warrant because we were not allowed to inspect what we first cited the very first time. That's why we did, and then I think unanimously passed a motion that we weren't going to issue another permit until we could get into site. And then I don't know how a permit got issued, but the permit got issued even though this council voted to not issue any more permits to that person, to that homeowner, until we could get in to see the property. So I'm equally frustrated. I don't live next door, but I'm equally frustrated as to taking all the steps I think we can do as a council body and then not really seeing anything coming to fruition for them.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be as brief as I can.
I'm sorry.
So, nope, the issue with the administrative warrant is we were trying to get an inspection of the interior. We did file an application for an administrative warrant, but for a couple of reasons, most specifically, because there was no one living inside of the property at the time, the court denied our application for an administrative warrant, basically saying if nobody's living there, the habitability of the interior isn't really paramount of importance.
Thank you, Councilor Possum. Mr. Kingsley?
I think I'm done. So, I mean, it sounds like if nobody's living in there, I'm out of options. Other than move.
Please, I know it's an inconvenience for you. Send us those videos if you see them. I can certainly attest to because I drive by there twice a week. So, and I see I see the squirrels going into the attic. So,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions, comments before we move on to the next topic?
I'd like
Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to add to the committee of the whole a discussion on continuing violation policy and fines. So I'd like to move that.
Okay. Not necessary, but motion has been made. Is there support? Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any other council questions, comments with respect to item number 7.2, property located 410 Fifth Street South? Okay, thank you. Move to item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1 is adopt a resolution ordering the repair or removal of hazardous conditions at 714 2nd Street South. Move to approve by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Johnson. Further discussion. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Could we just get some further information on what this property is and that it's under condemnation? Is that what the checkbox was?
Yeah, there's a garage on the back of this property that it's bowing to the point that the middle of the garage is almost reaching the ground. So it's coming down by itself. And so they're giving they're asking the council to give order to demolish it.
Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, are we demolishing it or the tenant or the owner?
We sent them the certified letter.
Ordering it.
And then for the next step, if they don't do anything in the next, they're supposed to respond to us in the next 10 days. If they don't respond to us, we can't go to court unless the council does a resolution stating that we're going to make this order. So this is the ability for us to go to court.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.2, adopt a resolution to hire Aaron Nelson as a patrol officer. This is added, this was not discussed at the committee of the whole meeting, but after the police officer interviews between the committee of the whole meeting and now, they're asking us to adopt a resolution to hire Aaron Nelson as a patrol officer to replace a number of them that have left. So
moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Motley. Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support.
By Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
How many officers are we down?
Is it 4? No? 3? No, after this hire.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Move to item 9, committee reports. Item 9.1, the committee of the whole meeting that was held on March 14th, was it? Well, May 14th, 2024, was it 14th? I don't have it on my last week. The 21st. Okay, the committee of the whole meeting, I apologize, that was held on May 21st, 2021. We'll make a correction in the minutes there. We'll move this part of our city council meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. At the committee of the whole meeting on May 21st, we had a presentation from Gabe Zika. He's our chairperson for Park and Recreation Commission, and he's also on the committee for the Essentia Health Iron Range Half Marathon, and he was coming to talk to us about permission to conduct the event in the city of Virginia on Saturday, August 17th, 2024. That marathon would start at the trailhead in Eveleth, and then it would run through 3 towns, and it would come back, the ending part of it would back on 2nd Avenue and a few other streets to get back to the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. It was moved and supported to approve the Essentia Health Iron Range Half Marathon to be held on August 17th, 2024, and to allow city staff to work with Mr. Zika on the traffic control and accommodations for the event.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Motley. Is there support? Support. By Councilor Beyondich. Further discussion. We still have the draft that was presented to us last Tuesday. I'm sure the final will come prior to. So we're approving this. We'll get the final itinerary later on. So thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the resolution to award the sewer rehabilitation Phase 1 project, including the base bid and add alternate to Utility Systems of America, in a total project amount of $534,878.75, as recommended by Matt Reed, our city engineer of record.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support. By Councilor Freely. Further discussion. Where's this money coming from? I'm sure that's going to be the question here. The $534,878.
We have a bond.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
It was moved and supported to approve the soil management plan for the Public Safety Center site from Northeast Technical Services.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? By Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Councilor Johnson gave a recap of the Buildings and Grounds meeting. He discussed the city's, the Lyric Center's transfer request for the ownership of the former Teen Center building. The Lyric Center now has access to more funding options in order to complete the required steam conversion if they own the building rather than just renting it. The city does budget in their general fund for the Lyric for 2024 and does pay the utilities monthly, so it would be advantageous for us to transfer that ownership. It was moved and supported to authorize execution of a quitclaim deed to the transfer ownership of the Teen Center building at 516 Chestnut Street to the Laurentian Arts and Cultural Alliance.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. But can we move back to item D?
Yes.
9.1D?
Oh, yes, sorry, I did miss one. Item 9.1D was to direct staff to obtain proposals for review of asbestos removal and demolition and discuss the acceptance of a donation of the building located at 121 Chestnut Street.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? By Councilor Freely. Further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
Do we have any idea of the time frame or the costs that the staff would be putting into this?
No, and I think that was part of what we were going to be working on, what our cost was going to be for us to assist with
For
this.
you to, okay,
Yeah.
so it's not to actually move forward?
No,
with
it's just to
doing
get all the
anything.
proposals together, what we think it might total package cost for us to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. It has been moved and supported to direct staff to obtain proposals for review of the asbestos removal and demolition. And the further discussion to accept the donation of the building located at 121 Chestnut Street from property owner. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
As you read that, that's where I'm hesitant on accepting a donation, because I don't know that that would be something.
Yeah, and it was to discuss the acceptance of donations, so we're still working on it. We haven't committed to anything yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
I apologize for missing one. My eyes are a little dry due to allergies, so I apologize. Trying to see here. Mr. Brian Silver, our Park and Recreation Director, was present to discuss the proposal for the arena glass advertising that was presented at the Buildings and Grounds Committee on May 15th, 2024. After the request for citizens to bring ideas to the council to generate revenue, Mr. Lindsay brought forward this idea for discussion. This would be a sticker that would be adhered to the bottoms of the glass in the arenas and could be purchased by businesses or residents as a memoriam or as an honorarium or as the name of your business. The yearly rates per lines of lettering for either $300 or 3 years at $250 per year. The Park and Recreation Commission did approve the concept and is now forwarding for approval. It was moved and supported to approve the proposal for the advertising and to ensure that the word marijuana is added to our restricted list for advertising.
Thank you. Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And Brian, I don't know if, were you here for the committee of the whole, or was it Colleen? I can't remember.
No one was at the committee of the whole meeting.
Oh, okay.
There was a
So
conflict.
when I asked to have this added, I just have a question for you. So as soon as Minnesota gets this thing sorted out and whatever, like, I think the whole gist of, sorry, that contract was, you know, to not promote any alcohol, tobacco, or marijuana to children in that space. My question is it suffice to just have the word marijuana, or do we need to somehow be more inclusive on, like, if it's called blah, blah, blah shop or XYZ shop, but they sell that product within their shop?
Mr. Lindsay?
So we don't want to be promoting.
I think what the restriction could be, we could try to craft a restriction that indicates marijuana or the THC industry.
So that would limit.
That would then capture all of the edibles and consumables and all of the THC products.
And then it would limit, like, say we have some shops, I mean, maybe not even in the city limits of Virginia, that want to do some advertising and they sell that product. Would that encompass that, having that language that you just stated? Would that encompass that?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it depends on how you phrase the restriction. If you indicated that that there'd be a prohibition on advertising for any company who engages in the sale of products involved with the THC industry, you'd be prohibiting minors Super One from doing that. What you would probably want to do is you would probably want to say, well, we want to restrict those businesses whose primary source of revenue is the sale of alcohol or THC products. And when I say build a restriction as indicating the THC products or THC industry, it's kind of, at least as I'm understanding it, the THC portion of it is like saying alcohol. There's different forms of alcohol. You have tequila and brandy and whiskey and beer. But if you say alcohol, everybody knows that it's all of those substances. Same thing with THC.
And I just wanted to, because we didn't have any, I guess, we didn't really have much of a discussion, legal discussion on it. So I just want to make sure that we're covering the bases, but not, like you said, you can't, you would prohibit Super One or what have you if they sell that right in the grocery store. So, okay, so is that something that you could look over before I know we're approving it. Oh, and then would that include CBD product?
Yes, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you. It could. I mean, you could reference THC or CBD industry, and again, you could reference primary source of income deriving from those two sources.
And as long, Mayor, I'm sorry to go on again, but as long as that's referenced or changed, I'm comfortable with passing it. I think the contract was just like the regular advertising contract that we put together, but now that Minnesota has changed, I think we need to add that to any and all existing advertising contracts, especially for the event center. So I'm comfortable passing it, Brian, if you think that you can word the language according to what our discussion has been this evening. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. I think the word primary source of revenue coming from that, I think is the key phrase moving forward there, because it's not just the sale of these products, but it's also the promotion of them of the grow operations, not actually selling this, but selling the equipment to grow the products. So that was all be all inclusive as well. So thank you for that, Councilor Paulson. It has been moved and supported to move forward with this advertising and have legal take a look at the proper language which to accommodate the questions that were brought up today at the council meeting with respect to tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, and the like. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Friedli reported on the Street and Alley Committee meeting that was held on May 14th, 2024. It was the consensus of the committee to complete an overlay of all the roads around the new North Star School and to seek milling and overlay pricing on the surrounding streets and avenues with a potential share of the cost with the Rockridge High School. It was moved and supported to direct staff to present a plan for the mill and overlay of the 500 block of 2nd Street South, 500 block of 4th Street South, and 6th Avenue from 2nd Street South to 3rd Street South.
So moved.
I'll move to approve by Councilor Motley and supported by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to initiate a meeting with the school district to request their participation in funding for the overlay project around the school.
Move to approve by Councilor Freely. Is there support? By Councilor Paulson. Further discussion? I did have a conversation with Jim Andrick, who was kind of representing the school, and in conversation indicated that we were moving forward with that request at the city council meeting. And he says, we'll just wait for your plan moving forward, and we'll set up a meeting and try to work this out. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Councilor Friedli also reported that we discussed the swap of ownership with St. Louis County and the city for Borgen Road and Hoover Road. It was moved and supported to approve that swap of ownership of Hoover Road and Borgen Road with St. Louis County and to allow city staff to make recommendation on where to dedicate the undedicated state aid mileage of about 0.98 miles.
So moved.
A move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? By Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Motley.
I just want to reiterate to anybody on Borgen Road, if you're watching, that this is going to be good for you. That means when Borgen Road is going to be redone, it will be a county road, so you will not be assessed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Street and Alley Committee started working on their next round of street projects, and so they approved the proposed capital improvement plan for proposed street reconstruction project for 2026 and 2028.
A move to approve by Councilor Freely, the Chair of Street and Alley. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? More information will be coming forward about the recommendations of those particular streets, so the public will be well aware of what we're planning on doing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
In addition, the Street and Alley Committee had a discussion around doing some mills and overlays again like this in 2025 like we did last year. It was moved and supported to direct staff to create a prioritization list of streets for a mill and overlay in 2025 and to seek funding for the project.
So moved.
A move to approve by Councilor Motley and supported by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the request by the Sugar Shack to approve blocking off of the 100 block of 3rd Avenue North for their street shows every Thursday this summer from 4:30 p.m. to 10 p.m.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? By Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the annual law enforcement Special Olympics torch run to be held on city streets in Veterans Park on Tuesday, June 18th, 2024.
Moved to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We had discussion regarding the hiring of the Library Associate Youth Services. It was moved and supported to approve the resolution to hire the Library Associate Youth Services.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to hold the mechanic position vacant and revisit that position within 6 months.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Motley. Is there support? By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
At the meeting, it was moved to table the discussion to hire the accounting clerk one until after budget discussions and for more information on outsourcing. No action is needed. It was moved and supported to approve the letter of understanding with ASME for City Hall summer hours with the added verbiage regarding consensus of all employees in the department.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Oh, light on. Counselor Paulson.
Hit the light. I just have a question, Britt, on the blue line and red line, and then it looks like it was changed to everybody needing to agree. That wasn't in the one from the committee of the whole, and I'm just wondering, were there further discussions, and are some employees not wanting to do this, so then therefore it will not pass at all?
And I think this was a request that asked me. They were a little worried that we were going to start holding people to the 10-hour schedule if they didn't want to go to the 10-hour schedule. And so it would just need to be that everybody needs to agree on the schedules they're going to work, because we still are open Monday through Friday. So not everybody can have Monday through Thursday, and not everybody can have Tuesday through Friday. We have to agree on the schedules. We have to agree on who's working. We have to make sure we have coverage for all the offices. And that was what that means, is that intent is to make sure that we're all covered and we all agree. We're not going to start nitpicking about who's doing what and what's going where. It's going to be everybody's on board with this, and we all understand what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you for that
Yeah,
clarification. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Thank you, Britt. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the letter of understanding with ASME for reassignment of the Iron Trail Motors Event Center employees.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Moved and supported to regrettably accept the resignation of Christina Nicola and to thankfully appoint Bill Cole as the interim designated building official.
So moved.
Move to approve and accept the resignation of Christine Nicola by Counselor Motley. Is there support? Support by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I want to say no, but I have to say yes. So I say approved. All those in favor, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
And it was adopted, there was a resolution in your packet that we need to adopt the resolution to appoint Bill Cole as the interim designated building official.
And the law does require us to have one
Yes, within 15 days of her last day of work.
in 15 days, so we have to figure that out. So this is interim.
So we have time to work on it, our plan.
Can I just,
Just when he thought he was out, we're pulling him back in. Counselor Freely.
so this will be under the conditions of the agreement that was made with
Yep,
him?
he's still on phased retirement, and so not to affect his retirement, he can't work more than 1,040 hours in the year, and he does not want us to go over that. So this is not a long-term solution. This is just the interim so that we have something in place so that we have time to figure out a plan.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, we don't have a motion? Wow. Well, let's back up.
That's when
Councilor
I
Beyondich.
had my light on to do that, so I'll make a motion.
Councilor Beyondich makes a motion. Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Johnson. Now, is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to table the discussion on the purchase of a transit van under the 2023 capital equipment bond and to direct staff to provide other options.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call, please.
Motley,
Yes.
Friedlieb,
Aye.
Paulson,
Aye.
Beyondich, Johnson,
Yes.
Aaron Sally, Huffy.
No. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you.
Eric Jonasson, our Deputy Fire Chief, came forward to discuss standby billing for the Virginia Fire Department, and he noted that this type of billing would allow the fire department to invoice for those type of services when requested by private parties. Councilor Johnson requested that we work on a policy or language and ordinance to add standby services in a fee schedule. It was moved and supported to allow staff to develop a contract for procedures in implementing the standby services for the fire department.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And no further items from that meeting.
Thank you, Britt. Move to item 10 on the agenda, Commission Liaison Reports. Is there a councilor that wishes to give a liaison report today? Councilor Motley.
I just have one thing from the last Parks and Rec meeting, although there's a lot going on. There's just one thing that sticks out. One of our commissioners is also involved with the Mesabi Humane Society. And so there's going to be a first time ever night golf fundraiser for the Mesabi Humane Society on Friday, September 13th at the Virginia Golf Course. More details to come, but this is the first one Virginia has done. So, and I hear that Evelyn does really good on this, so keep that in mind. September 13th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Any other commission liaison reports? Move to item 11, department head reports. Does any department have head that has a report they'd like to give today? We'll start from right to left. Jody has given us her annual report already for 2023, but there may be some additional information you might want to disseminate as the department head. So we'll ask her to come forward first, and then we'll move around the table. Jody?
Just a reminder that summer reading starts on Saturday, June 1st, and it goes through August. And our kickoff is, you can come see the Lake Superior Zoomobile. There will be snakes. We'll have a warning. So if you don't do snakes, spiders, lizards, you don't have to go into the event room. But the friends at the library will be upstairs. You can come get your summer reading booklet, get a free book, and ask any questions you have about summer reading. And we have quite a few events in June. You can come learn about bears. We have the annual big truck event. Let's see, what else? There's a lot of stuff in June. Those are just the first 2 weeks. So come learn about bears. It's a lot of animals this year, just for whatever reason. So you can come learn about all sorts of animals. But that's it.
Thank you, Jody. Britt, any other items to be disseminated outside the committee of the whole meeting?
I do have something positive to report. We did have a massive rainstorm as predicted last week, and we did not have to bypass until very early in the morning the next morning because of the work we've done with our lift stations and some ditching and such. We usually had to bypass way early, right when the rain started, and it's getting better. It's getting better. Our systems are working. Things are looking better. The staff feels better that we're not in such dire emergency mode when it comes to our stormwater and our sanitary during storms and such. So it's really good that we're doing all this work in these streets and such.
Well, and kudos to the staff in the department, Public Works Department, for making that proactive report, investigating each one of those and taking action before become an emergency. So thank you for that, Rich.
Thank you.
Anything from legal?
Nothing more from legal, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything to proffer today, Pam, our city clerk?
Yes, Mayor. Just want to inform the public that there is one more week to sign up for 3 vacant council positions beginning January 1st of 2025. And we will be open until 5 o'clock next Tuesday to sign up.
Very good, thank you. Sherry, anything from Finance HR?
Yes, we're wrapping up the 2023 audit here, and we're also, I'm in the middle of a revenue recapture audit, which we should have a final meeting on Friday. So we're very busy. Staff is very busy.
Okay. We'll look forward to that revenue recapture report. Thank you. Jenny, anything from our planning department?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just would like to extend my gratitude to Christina Nicola, my counterpart in the building side of things and permitting, and thank Bill Cole as well for stepping in as the interim building official, and also just request that the residents have a little bit of patience with our department right now with some of this turnover. We're a little low staffed right now. We're trying the best as we can to respond to you in a timely fashion, but would appreciate your grace during this transition period. Additionally, I wanted to update the council about the Building and Development Summit for Northeast Minnesota that I attended last Tuesday, which is why I missed the Committee of the Whole meeting. And it was very well attended, lots of information that I will be passing along to you. If you have any questions on any of the information, on any of the presentations, I would be happy to answer those questions or provide any context to that information that you might need. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay. No other department heads present to give a report. We'll move on to item 12, council reports. Does any city councilor like to give a council report this evening? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank the Parkview second graders for coming. Every year they do a tour of downtown, which includes the library, the fire department, City Hall, and a couple of businesses. I believe they went to Cane Lakes this year. It was really cool to see the second graders. After seeing them all year in class, they got to come to my other job, so that was kind of fun to talk to them about the history of City Hall and what we do here. The other thing I want to just bring up again is it is the end of National Mental Health Month, and I just want to ask folks what you've done to help take care of yourself in the last month. What have you done for your mental health to keep you healthy? Think about that for a little bit, and if you haven't done anything, please do something every month, every week, every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Any other council reports? Okay, thank you. Before we adjourn, I got a call from and met with residents throughout the last month. What particularly brought an issue for me, and it seems minor to some people, but to the neighbors, it's a major issue, and it's regarding the Mesabi Humane Society. And I know we get a report quarterly from them with respect to that, but calls to the Mesabi Humane Society has gone unanswered in response to some capturing of some animals, particularly the cats. And in fact, there was a response last year to this resident, just to give you one example, to this resident, and they left a trap there to trap cats. It never came back. The trap is still there. And cats are running amok. And I know that may seem trivial to some people, but it is. I went over there, and it's an ongoing problem. I'm sure pets around the city, there are some issues there. So if we could somehow contact the Mesabi Humane Society, I usually would do that without bringing this up at the council meeting, but there's been a number of calls with respect to that. So if you're listening, Mesabi Humane Society, please give me a call, and I'll fill you in on what the issues are in that neighborhood. Thank you. And then we had Memorial Day celebration on Monday. The honor guard from the Virginia Service Club was busy all day. We went from one cemetery to the next, but I want to thank those citizens of the city of Virginia and they were in surrounding areas who came on Monday up to the Veterans Cemetery in Virginia and honored and remembered those servicemen, men and women, soldiers who died in combat in the line of duty in memory of them. It was awesome. There were a lot of people there moving forward. We didn't have a band there for whatever reason, but the program went very well, and I just want to say thanks for coming and remembering. Instead of cooking hot dogs, fishing on the lake, and those kind of things, which people do, they took the time out to come in from the lake, to go somewhere else to attend this particular event, to honor those who lost their lives in defense of this country. So thank everybody for that. Okay, and then there was All Servicemen's Day, there's Memorial Day, there's Veterans Day, there's Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day, but this year there's a special celebration that we're going to be honoring the 80th anniversary of D-Day, the Normandy invasion, and it's a very small ceremony at the Elks Club from 5 to 7 p.m. On June 6th. There's going to be light sandwiches and some salads and things like that, and there's going to be a small presentation there, and we're going to recognize, on behalf of all those who in the Normandy Division, 2 individuals from this area who served in the Normandy invasion, was part of the Normandy invasion, and one particular individual, Mr. Turcano, who was in 5 battles. 5, and was a medic and survived. And there's a special award that's given to an individual who served in 5 battles, and it's very rare. And the family found about this battle, found about the medals that were, they weren't known if even they were awarded to Mr. Turcano, but in the discharge papers it shows that he served in those 5 battles, and he was recommended for these awards, medals. So they contacted Congressman Pete Stauber, who AIDS did a lot of research, found the fact that that is the case. They've recreated these medals for them, and we'll have them at the June 6th for distribution for Mr. Turcano, who's from Tower, Minnesota originally. So it's just one part of the event. We'll have so if anybody's interested in coming, you're welcome to do so. But if not, please remember the 80th anniversary of the Normandy invasion, because there aren't too many World War II veterans still around. So we need to remember them. So it's just a little small celebration on June 6th from 5 to 7 at the Virginia Elks Club. So thank you for that. So anybody else have anything come before the council before we adjourn this evening? Seeing none, we'll adjourn our council meeting to our next council meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. Thank you, everyone, for all your hard work. We stand adjourned.